Welcome to Casper Private School channel. I am Olusegun Patrick. Today I'll be talking about classroom management techniques that we adopt at Casper Private School. First, I will start by asking the question, what is classroom management? Classroom management is a collection of techniques that teachers use to encourage effective learning by minimizing distractions and disruptions. Classroom management can often be a neglected part of a teacher's training. Even if classroom management is covered in a teacher's training course, new teachers may not be prepared to deal with all the life challenges of the classroom. A teacher can have great lesson plans and materials. However, if a teacher cannot manage his or her class, effective learning will not happen. So, what are the essential elements of good classroom management? I'm going to talk about few of these techniques. Now, let's start with one. First one is build your community. Community building means providing opportunities for students to get to know each other and the teacher. A classroom is a small community when students don't feel anonymous. When they feel connected to their classmates, motivation increases and interaction is easier. Take time at the beginning of the course to provide activities that allow students to get to know one another. Secondly, teachers should create a safe, supporting environment. Learning a new language can be a scary experience. Students are often afraid of making mistakes and being laughed at. When they feel relaxed and among friends, tension decreases. As a teacher, model respect, caring, and encouragement. Expect the same from your students. When students feel safe and cared for, they are less likely to get off task and more likely to be involved in class activities. The third one, know your students. Know your students. As much as possible, get to know your students on a personal level. We know this can be difficult in very large classes. This not only helps you develop bond with your students, it also helps you to design lessons and activities that meet their needs and interests. When student needs are being met, they are more likely to be engaged in class. Also, students have different reasons for undesirable behavior in class. The more you know your students, the more you can understand the reason for disruptive behavior and find ways to limit it. This includes finding ways to incorporate and recognize all student strengths in some ways. I move to number 4. Create classroom guidance, expectations, and include students in this process. Take time to make clear what kind of behaviors you expect from your students. How can they meet expectation if they don't know what they are? This is even more effective when students are involved in creating expectations. If they come up with the rules, they are more likely to follow them. This can also include consequences for not following the rules. Making sure everyone knows the classroom expectation can reduce disruptive behaviors and therefore lead to effective learning. 5. Be fair and consistent with all your students. Did you ever have a teacher who clearly favors some students and dislike others? What effect did that have on students' attitude? As teachers, we always have students. When we like more or less, the student will like more or less. Those who are more motivated and prepared, and those who are less motivated and prepared. It is our job to make sure we treat all students equally, but you can still accommodate different students' needs. Be conscious of how often you call on certain students and make sure you don't single out students who perform well or poorly. Do recognize students who are doing a great job. Find ways to do this for all your students when they do something well. Often, students who are labeled as bad or poor will live up to that label. They may engage in destructive or other undesirable behavior. 6. Use praise, but make it sincere. Praise and encouragement can have a very positive effect on students and help to keep the classroom functioning effectively. Who doesn't like to be praised? But students, even the very young ones, can tell when the praise is deserved and when it isn't. If a student does something well, no matter how small, recognize it. However, don't give praise without a reason, because it becomes meaningless and ceases to be a motivational tool. It can actually be demotivating for students who will want to try their best when everything they do is labeled great. 7. Keep lessons engaging and relevant to students. Students often cause problems in the classroom because they are not engaged. Remember the last time you were bored when you were paying attention. Think about your lesson plans as a teacher and how to incorporate activities that keep students interested and active. Keep activities fairly short, especially for younger learners. Make sure students are doing a lot, not just listening. If you have to give a lecture, break it up into smaller pieces with practice or application activities in between. Even adult students need to be actively participants in class. Yes, they can sit and listen for a long lecture, but that doesn't mean they are learning. Also, find ways to make your lesson personal and relevant. Create activities that will appeal to your students based on their interests and needs. An engaged student is a managed student. Number 8. Have a clear plan for the lesson and keep students informed of the plan and its purpose. As a teacher, you need to be clear about your objectives and how you plan to achieve them. If you don't know what your plan is when you walk into the classroom, chaos will be the likely outcome. So when students know what they will be expecting to do and why, they are more likely to engage in the lesson. Explain the day's plan, how the activities will help them achieve the course goals or their own personal goals. If students understand where they need to go and why, they are more likely to get there. This could include writing the day's plan of activities on the board. Remember, if you don't have a plan for your students, they will have one for you. This is particularly important for adult learners who often have clear personal learning goals. Go to number 9 right now. Deal with disruptive behavior quickly and consistently. Engaging in argument, scolding, and losing your temper are not effective way to deal with destructive behavior. All of these cause lost class time and may continue to further disruptive behavior. For many reasons, some students may try to disrupt class on purpose. Don't let this happen. There are other options. Start by making eye contact with the student. Often this is enough. Or the teacher can call on the student to answer a question or simply indicate through positive language that the student needs to change the behavior. This could be something like, "We are just waiting for John to join the discussion." Once it happens, positive feedback is useful. Like, "Thanks, John." The important thing is to find ways to deal with distraction in a way that does not take up a lot of class time. If these techniques do not work, talk with the students outside of class to identify the issue and work to find a solution with the students is often effective. At last result would be sending the student to the principal's or director's office for more serious intervention. In general, make sure that any response to destructive behavior is consistent so that the students don't feel that some can get away with it while others can't. However, many behavior issues can be avoided by identifying students who demonstrate our potential for disruptive behavior and strategizing ways to overcome them before problems occur. This could include finding ways to connect with the students, giving them special tasks during class, and so on. Being proactive is always better than being reactive. Go to number 10 now. challenge students. Think about your own experiences in school. When were you bored or off task? Two main reasons are a lack of challenge and too much challenge. Students who find the work too easy are going to find other ways to engage themselves. And students who find the work too hard will become frustrated, give up, and find other ways to engage themselves. Work to find ways to challenge all students at the appropriate level as much as possible. This can be a difficult task for teachers. However, intellectual challenges that inspire students' curiosity go a long way towards keeping students involved and on task. 11. Start strict and relax later. In the attempt to provide a safe and supportive environment, many teachers try to become their student friend on the first day of class. There is nothing wrong with being friendly, but that is not the same as being a friend. It is the teacher's job to uphold classroom expectations in a consistent manner that we allow learning to happen. Starting off the course strictly will help ensure that students respect the guidelines and expectations. Imagine if half your students come to class early in the course without having completed their homework and you give them another day to complete it. What is going to happen? You send the message that it is okay to finish assignments late. This will almost surely lead to many students being late with work for the duration of the course, which will affect your lessons and ability to move forward. So once expectations are established and students are following them, expectations can be made as needed. Last but not the least, the 12th, be passionate about teaching. Students can tell when a teacher is not excited about being in the classroom. If the teacher does not care, why should students? Bring your love of English teaching and learning to the class and share that with your students. Enthusiasm can be infectious. In conclusion, teaching is not just about knowing content and methodology. It is about finding ways to connect with students and help them to grow and develop curiosity and a love for learning. Skilled teachers develop ways to do this in order to create the best classroom environment possible. Of course, classroom norms vary from culture to culture and context to context. So all teachers must consider how to put these elements into practice in a way that work for them and their students. Thank you for listening.